Okay, now you can say it.
Now I can say, hey, we're live.
Hey,
Just
hey,
about to go
hey.
live. We're live or we're going to go live?
We're live.
We're
We're live. We're
live.
just waiting a minute to get started so people could get the notification that we're live and then they can join us.
Fantastic. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
special Ask Us Anything at a special time
Special
today.
time. Oh, wow.
Super special time. Yeah.
Right. It's exciting.
Yeah. Someone's trying to call you.
Yeah. Who's that? All right.
All right. All right. Hey, Andre.
Hey, Tara. What's going on? It's a new time, new look.
New look, new time. Yeah. It's 7 p.m. Eastern here. We're joining. We're broadcasting from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we're doing a special thing today. So it's an Ask Us Anything event.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So what that means is those of us who are joining us live can ask us questions. And we do have some questions that people pre-submitted as well. So yeah. Oh, someone loves the new time. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, we're also testing out a new time to see if this would work for people. So that's great as well. So so if you have questions, those of you, I haven't even had a drink yet. Oh not my yet? Goodness, not yet. Maybe after.
Maybe it'll straighten you out.
Maybe I should have had one. You did offer to pour me a Negroni.
I did offer, yeah. In fact, I was going to show everybody how to make a Negroni. It's the one drink that I think I can make other than pouring a glass of wine or opening a beer. And it's equal parts of 3 little ingredients, and that makes it pretty simple. So
what are the 3 ingredients? Since you said it already.
So it's gin.
My favorite drink.
It's gin, it's Campari, and vermouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with a little bit
vermouth.
Of red vermouth and a little bit of ice and maybe some orange peel or pamplemousse peel, some grapefruit.
Right? Yeah, that's my favorite drink. So Andre's very good at making it. He does something special though, because when I make it myself, it does not taste the same. So I'm not sure what that is.
It's the way I massage you. I think I'm just about average, but you're so smart. You say that I do it well just to encourage me, and I'm so I guess vain that I'm like, okay, I'll buy into that. So you say that I do it well, and I think I do, so I'll go at it.
Yes.
So that's how you get me to massage you. Oh, yeah. How'd you know that it hurt there? It's like, oh, you're so intuitive. It's like, meanwhile, I can touch you anywhere and you'd be that. Okay.
That's not true. Okay. So you can ask us, have we been to Hanlon's Point Beach yet this summer? That's a great question.
Yeah,
we have.
That is a great question. Yeah, we went there and we came back a little bit preemptively because we had some issues at home. Everything seems to be working out there. But yeah, we went a couple of times and it was beautiful. For those of you who have been and haven't been for a while, Hanlon's actually did a huge restoration project. I think they're doing a pretty good job. So at the far southern area where Gibraltar's Point is, they've expanded the beach. They brought in some beautiful sand. It doesn't seem to be metallic this time. And just a great place. So check it out. Yeah.
So people who don't know, Hanlon's Point Beach is on Toronto Islands in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about Hanlon's Point, though? Why should we be talking about it? What's of interest?
Well, it's a nude beach.
A nude beach. Yeah. Clothing optional.
Clothing optional. Yeah. So today we are taking your questions live. So if you have a question and you're joining us, you can drop it in the comments and we will see it up here on the broadcast. Like I said, we have some questions that people pre-submitted, which is awesome. So normally, if you're joining us for the first time, we come live in the groups at 11 a.m. Eastern with a topic about relationships, sex, communication,
sexual identity, sexual issues, whatever you got.
All kinds of things.
All kinds of stuff.
And so we always post the replay. So if you can't join us at any time, you can catch us in the replay. So
True that.
I'm Tara Franco, and I'm a relationship and awesomeness coach.
Yeah, you are awesome. And I'm Andre Turcotte. I'm a sex-positive psychotherapist.
Yeah. So let's jump into those questions. So if you're shy and you don't want to ask your question here, but have a question or our discussion today brings something up for you, you can always reach out to Andre or myself via DM on Facebook, and we'd be happy to answer your question for you.
You know, I honor people being shy. I'm very outgoing, as you know it. I can probably do just about everything, but on occasion, I too get a little bit shy, and maybe it's not always so easy to announce what we want. So as you say, you know, we can always DM and we can put it in the chat, whatever. But I like the idea of talking about things, right? I like the idea of normalizing things and making it kind of matter of fact. So, there's always the next thing. There's always the parameter that we might have wanted to go to, but might have been like, I don't know about it. And maybe we have somebody to do our bidding. My brother used to do that for me. He'd say,
My
Andre,
sister used
go
to
ask
do for me.
Right. But if you don't have anybody to do that for, maybe we can do it for you. So if you have something you're a little bit shy about, ask. But the reason why we want to do it is because we want to talk about everything. We want to normalize everything, because no matter how you're thinking, no matter how you're feeling, no matter how you are demonstrating, it's been done sometime before, and it falls someplace on the human spectrum. So you are normal, you are human, and let's just talk about it. Let's just be it.
Yeah, and we welcome you here in the group. And I think if you have a question, it's likely that there's someone else out there in our 1,500 members that also has the same question.
1,500.
Yeah, just over 1,500. Actually, we're going to get closer to 1,600. But we will be, one of the things we are going to be doing in the group, in case you are shy to ask and don't also want to reach out to us, because some people feel they don't feel right about reaching out to us, which we want to say, please do. We love chatting with you. Is opening up anonymous posting in the group. So we're going to be doing that soon. So
no haters.
No haters.
No haters.
No,
just bring love.
Haters.
Just saying.
So people can ask their questions and start discussions if they're not feeling open to it. So let's jump in. So the first question that came up was, how do you successfully navigate a mono-poly relationship?
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit first, please, about what a mono-poly relationship might be like?
For sure. I can say what that is. So a mono-poly relationship is when one person in a relationship identifies as open or polyamorous. So they're interested in having relationships, whether intimate, sexual, or otherwise, with multiple people.
Poly. Okay.
And then the other person identifies as monogamous. So they only want to have one relationship with one person.
But they're informed. They're consenting to the idea that their partner is poly.
Exactly. Yes. Gotcha. A mono-poly relationship is a consensual relationship. So people choose it. But having said that, I think, like in the case of the question that got asked, it doesn't always feel consensual, because sometimes people find out that their partner is polyamorous after they've made a contract that's monogamous. So now I don't know if that's not the case. Sorry, I want to say first, that's not the case with this particular people. No, I do know.
Oh, you do know.
I do know. They did agree to it, but now circumstances have changed. And while the one person is always identified as polyamorous and the husband has been fine with this, that things are now happening more where they're meeting other people and having relationships. And now there's some feelings that are coming up. And so even though the husband is poly-curious, which is interested in being polyamorous, they're not feeling quite ready for it. And they have strong values and feelings around being monogamous. So interesting. So what were you going to say? I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, it's good to know. Okay, so, but what I want to really highlight is the idea that we're doing this in an open way, right? That we're talking about ethically open polyamory, right? We're talking about not just being in a monogamous relationship and then, well, I'm going to pop out and do my own poly thing without telling you about it. That would be unethical. That would not be open. That would not be what we advocate for. We ask that you have open dialogues about whatever it is that you're doing, feeling, thinking, and that you might be able to invite the other person so that they can consent, that it's not just being made for them, right? The decision.
Yeah. So if anyone's just joined us, you can drop a question in the chat. We're answering questions live tonight.
Sure.
Special T&A. Let's talk poly.
Right. So the monopoly thing, right? So, it sounds like it on very superficial way. I think some people might say, well, that doesn't sound fair, but it's really not a question of fair if the people are consenting to it, right? Yeah. So, for example, I might want to be mono. I might say, my dance card is such, or I prefer my way of relating is that I want to do my thing, but I appreciate your desire to do that. You go do your thing, but I want to be mono as we're doing this poly thing. And that is my choice. And that is one of the many, many, many combinations of relating that we come across. Yeah.
And in some cases, I know of people that I've talked to in the group where they've been married for a very long time. And one person in the relationship wants to be married, loves the person, but wants to have an asexual relationship. They do not want to engage in intimate sexual activities, but is happy for their partner to to still do that. So they have a mono-poly relationship and it works quite well for them.
Right. Well, you mentioned the aspect of being asexual as just an example. And yes, so then it might actually be, let's say I were the person who's asexual in this, I might actually feel a bit of relief if you were to go out and, I don't want to play chess. You like playing chess? Go play chess with the other friends and come back and, hang with me. And that'd be really cool. So I might actually prefer it. That way I don't have to study chess. I don't want to play chess. I don't like the board. I don't like the pieces, whatever it is.
Yes. But in the case of this particular relationship, it is a mono-poly relationship, sort of. I think it seems like they want to create a space where the person who's more mono-leaning feels safe and comfortable. So let's talk about how we can navigate these types of relationships successfully.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So, I mean, the first thing we always say in all relationships.
Yeah, communicate.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And in this case, I think.
Well, to the communicate what? So the two things, right? So we want to be able to identify our own position, what we're thinking, and then we want to be able to share it with others and find out where they're coming from and find out where there's overlap, where we're able to have those agreements.
Sure, for sure. I think that you jumped ahead. The first thing is to create an environment to have a safe conversation. So being sharing with each other what your needs are in that type of relationship. So being open and vulnerable, but asking the other if it's a safe environment and creating that safe environment to have that honesty together.
Okay.
Yeah. This I'm bringing it up is because this is something we teach. It's attunement communication.
Yes.
Where you start, you have this process of effectively communicating where you take turns sharing and listening, like active listening, so that everyone feels that they have what they want to say, they feel heard, and they understand.
Yeah, they feel heard, they feel like they're being understood, and that creates that environment of safety, right? I know I can trust you. I know you're going to listen to me. I know you see me and you hear me, you feel me. That makes me feel secure. That's good. But speaking of security, it makes me think as you're talking about the idea of being mono-ish and poly-ish, and kind of, to me, the idea of that opening up, is it a question of attachment styles? Does that play into it? Is there a reason, or what is the reason rather, for their wanting to be in this style of relating? Well, it's like that in anything, right? I think one of the questions we had come across also is somebody wanting to just starting to open up a relationship, and then it maybe was going a little bit south when they did that. And the question is, when we choose to open it up, what is our motive in opening up, right? So are we good as we are, or are we, as you say, wallpapering over some cracks that if we could just open it up, or if I could just get them another partner, everything would be fine. And that's not necessarily our experience, right? It doesn't really work that way. What we want to do is have a good foundation first, find out how we are, and then we can go to it. But that's our way of doing it.
Well, I think that's a good way of doing it, right? And I think if feelings are coming up for someone in a relationship, whether it's mono, poly, or otherwise, it could be because there's needs that aren't being met in some way in your current relationship.
Right.
So you might feel threatened. Like, for example, there's new partners coming in and maybe this person's going to fall in love with them, or the person is spending a bunch of time on their phone and texting the person and that sort of thing. So it's like when these sort of things comes up, it's understanding and communicating about how you're feeling, what's coming up for you, if there's certain things that are triggering, and how you might address them. So one of the areas that commonly people forget about is quality time. Right? And quality time being like, you and I may live in the same space, we may nest together, but just because we're in the same space for the majority of the time doesn't necessarily mean that that's quality time. And so our new partners may be getting kind of the best of us, right? We may be planning dates with them and doing exciting things where the person home is like, oh, let's sit on the couch and watch a movie tonight. Like, we never do that. Sometimes we do that. I like doing that too.
Isn't that what we have planned for later? Are we going dancing? Are we going to the club, or are we going to watch a movie?
No, I think we're going to watch a movie or have some playtime.
Well, depending on the movie, we might have both.
Yeah. So one of the things I also wanted to mention here that comes up often when people are experiencing feelings is this idea about creating, so they might create rules to protect their feelings, right?
A rule to protect their feelings. Like, what kind of rule?
well, that you can only text from 8 p.m. to 9
yes.
p.m.
Okay.
or you can't fall in love with someone, or
Mhm.
like there's all kinds of things people come up with. It's like, I must approve all your partners and that sort of thing. Actually, we're going to get into that question because that was another question that was asked, but these sorts of things. So, yeah.
It makes me laugh because there's a couple I'm working with now, and I hope they don't mind me saying, but they had a rule originally that he could not fuck his dates in her truck. But then they came to realize that maybe that wasn't as important as they had thought it was, but it was the symbolism behind it, right?
The symbolism.
Yeah, so,
for sure.
So what's that play that makes us want to erect these certain rules or prohibit these other ones, right?
Yeah.
What are they really about? It's not so much about the truck. It's about my wanting to create a feeling of ownership, of security, of having my place, that like this is sacred to us, whatever it might be for them. What was it that's really at play? And I think that's important for us to always consider, right? What is it that prompts me to do the things that I want to do? What is it that makes me say the things I want to say? What's really behind those things? And when you start looking at it that way, you become very well informed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, guys.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, so the next question is totally different. We're going to switch it up here. So
changing gears.
I want to try going to a lifestyle or sex club. Where can I find one? And what else should I know?
Yeah, they used to have these thing called the Yellow Pages. Now I guess you'd have to go online. You remember that? It was a book back in the day. So where would you find them? Well, you could go to things like Backpages, or you could even do internet search or your local area. And I guess you could put in sex club or swing clubs or
sex club, lifestyle
clubs,
clubs, swinger things. You can ask in groups like ours. Like we actually have a list in our group, in the guides, of sex clubs and lifestyle clubs. So if you have one that you like, you can always add it to our list. It's in the guides under sex clubs, I think. It's a spreadsheet.
Thank you, Tara. Please, if you have experience and you want to write a little review or any helpful hints, please put that in the guides, and that'd be great. It's in the guides, right?
Yep.
Sounds like a guide.
It's in the resources guide of the guides.
So what is the question then? They're thinking about going to
so what do they need to know?
What do they need to know? Well, I guess you need to know the do's and the don'ts. And number one rule is that there are no expectations. Right? What does that mean? No pressure, no expectations.
Yeah.
So it means that if you go there, don't expect one thing or another. Go there with an open mind, open heart, and find out what the etiquette is from where you're at. Right?
Yeah. So firstly, you want to go in, there's no expectations of you, so that you don't necessarily, if you're going to a sex club, have to have sex with someone, even the person that you come with.
Even the person you come with, right. And that's true inside and outside the club, and forever and for always, for every circumstance. You are always free to grant and withdraw your consent at any time. Without any expectation from the other or pressure. And I know we say this all the time, and I know it is, everybody's here they go again, but it's got to be said, because the reason why granting and the ability to grant our consent is so important is because it creates an atmosphere of trust and security. And if we have that, then we can be ourselves to come at it. Otherwise, there's coercion, there's insecurity, there's fears, there's all kinds of stuff, and that's not very sexy.
Right. So the other thing not to expect is don't expect to have sex. So don't go in expecting that you're going to have sex with somebody. So that's the thing. And related to that is the whole consent, which you just said. But this around the consent is you have to ask before touching people.
And even at that, right? You may go to the club and may have never seen other people having sex before. You may be the first time you see them live. You can look, but be mindful of how you imagine it might feel, or, so some people might even say you might have to get consent to watch. And you can take a casual glance, but if you're going to be setting up chairs there with popcorn and everything, it's not really going to be so well received unless they're real great exhibitionists, but you want to be mindful of just about everything. So consent is always the way. See if you can make eye contact, find out the vibe, take their temperature, get it. But most certainly, whenever possible, and make it possible, find the consent first, please.
Yeah. And some places have little symbols. Like I know at Oasis Aqua Lounge, which is a club that's in Toronto near where we live when we're there, they have these little happy faces and sad faces, and you can put them in the area that you are, and that will indicate. You still have to ask. That does not mean you can approach.
Right.
And there's also things about distance and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The other important thing to do is do your research. So find out if you're going to a specific place, if there's a theme or any special considerations, like is Is it a couples night? Is it fetish only? You know, there could be certain things in place. So make sure you do your research if you're going to a particular club.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess also it's sort of like there's certain clubs have certain etiquette in a way, right? Certain procedures that are followed. So you might not come out in the first floor totally undressed. Maybe you're supposed to wear some clothing or a towel.
Sure.
There's little things like that also to be expected. Sorry. What are some things? Well, depending on where you go, you might have to prepare. So some clubs, most clubs, I think just about all clubs will offer you condoms, but be careful in advance. Bring them just in case. Don't rely on people for lube or otherwise, right? So there's little things like that. But you might even go in there and have an agreement with the person you're going with beforehand. Let's do a check-in before, find out how we're feeling about this, see what our desires and motives are, what our do's and our don'ts are. And then let's see if we can also do a check-in while we're there. Maybe it's just getting eyes on with each other or having our little hand signals or whatever it is. And then after, can we unpack it and again do a little check-in and find out, you know, how was that? Was everything okay? Was it your liking? What did you like? What you didn't like? Things of that nature.
Right. Can I stop you for a second?
Always.
If anyone's joining us now, you can drop your questions in the comments. We are doing a live Ask Us Anything. We're just talking about sex clubs right now. So I just wanted to say, because a couple of people have joined us and they might be new.
You know, it's interesting because sometimes I speak to people, you know, outside, wherever, and the idea of coming up to a lifestyle club or swinger club or sex club comes up. And what do we call it? Because some people really take offense to the word lifestyle, right? It's just like, ooh, that's like, you know, 1970s swinging kind of thing. Other people don't like the word swinging. Some people say, well, I'm not polyamorous. I'm not falling in love with everybody, but I have multiple. I mean, so if you call it a sex club, some people think, oh, is that like a strip joint where like women are taking off their clothes? Or is it like a sex club? Like I'm going to have to go in there and have sex. I mean, I wonder what we could universally agree on to call these clubs of leisure places we might want to go to.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to come up with something.
No,
I think, you know, just do your research and find out what it is, find out what that particular place is about, because they're all a little bit different.
Sex club, swing club.
Yeah.
Lifestyle clubs. Yeah.
Lifestyle club. I did want to say something about your bring your own stuff. So I'm really big on bring your own stuff and not just bring your, like, because I have sensitivities. So I like a particular type of lube and particular types of condoms. So if you have those particular interests, and also it's easier. Like we have a little pencil case that we put these things in that have like lube and condoms. We have a little bit of mouthwash, and sometimes I have a little thing of wipes because, you know, you want to clean up in between if you're doing multiple partners and that sort of thing. So
if you're doing multiple partners,
if you're engaging,
or multiple partners are doing you, you want to do a little
exactly.
One of the things that's really discussed that I think is wonderful to bring are flip flops.
Yes, I was going to put that on the list because, showers.
We live in a climate where sometimes there's snow for about 9 months of the year. And sometimes people trek in mud and sand and all kinds of stuff. So you might not want to be barefoot throughout the entire, you might want to be nude, but not necessarily barefoot. Having flip-flops or slippers or something like that, stilettos, that's always
to walk around. Once you get into areas, because some places have areas of the club where you're mostly nude or almost nude, and you'd want those, and you can't, if you're wearing heels, you might not be able to use them on the furniture. Like there's practical
or in the
considerations.
hot tub or all kinds of
when you take a shower, you don't want to be in a shower, you know. Most places are clean, but I don't know. Bring flip flops.
And I like that you mentioned the mouthwash too. That's always an important part, right?
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind that some places have places to store your things and others don't. Yeah. So find out in advance. And if they don't, you might want to have something that you can, you know, carry around quite easily, like a knapsack. I know that sounds crazy, but these things are important. You know, it's places to stash your things while you're having some fun. Yeah,
and you know, that's it sounds crazy, but no, it's actually a very practical, logical point. And some of the better clubs do have it really well done. They might even have a locker area, and you have your own locker with a lock. Other places we've gone, it's been basically drop and flop, and you know, you are just basically lowering your gear, and that's it. There's no place to store your goodies, right?
I know.
Which isn't really our jam so much. We weren't down for that so much, right? We want a place where we can squirrel away.
Yeah, anyway. Like we went to a club here in Montreal, not one of a couple of the clubs here, and they definitely didn't have anything. And some of the men, people identifying as men, just basically dropped their drawers and had them at their ankles. And I found that really off-putting. We found a place to stash our stuff. I think we found somewhere secret and we stashed our stuff. And we were like the only ones that weren't walking around with things.
Yeah, but a lot of the guys, they're not dressing up, right? A lot of men don't go to clubs and have like sexy gear to wear.
I think they should.
Reason. They should, perhaps. But more often it feels as though the women presenting population parts are geared up. I wonder where they were storing their clothing.
I think they probably had bags and had them on the floor, or put them off to the side. Possibly. I think that's what people were doing. Anyway,
if you own a sex club, have a place for people to leave their gears. It's the same thing if you're hosting parties. Where is everybody going to drop their stuff? Something to think about.
One more thing on sex clubs I just wanted to add is that, from my experience, most of the clubs we've been to, the staff are always really great.
Sure.
And if you're new and unsure, they usually will offer you a tour of the facilities, tell you the rules, how things work, where to find things, etc. And they're also great for enforcing the rules. So if you feel unsafe or someone's being not behaving properly, not respecting consent boundaries and that sort of thing, they're really good at supporting you. As are a lot of people in the club. Like our first experience meeting someone who's a friend of ours now was telling people to stay behind the line because they weren't being invited into the space. So that was kind of interesting. So there you
go. In the spreadsheet, I was just thinking, do we have a section for daycare? Because a lot of them don't seem to have daycare.
No space for daycare, but we do have something for if there's places to store your things. Okay, so here's another question that we received. And if you are joining us and want to ask a question, please do. Is it possible to cheat in polyamory or consensual non-monogamy?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to say automatically, yes, it is possible to cheat. Polyamory, open relating, all those things have, they're just the same. Cheating is lying. Cheating is taking it upon yourself to do something without the information or consent of the other person, right? So yeah, you can definitely cheat. Don't cheat. Just announce what you're wanting, say your position, own it, and then see what happens. And they may be agreeing and they may not be agreeing, but at least you will not be reproaching yourself or be reproached by others for having lied about it. So yes, you can cheat. Don't do it. Be open.
Yeah, well, it's right in the name, consensual non-monogamy. You actually said ethical non-monogamy, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think sometimes people say that polyamory is legalized cheating, and I really hate that definition. Because it's not true. It's not. It's like, oh, you're allowing your person to cheat. I think even a relative of yours made that suggestion. And it's like, no, that's not the point.
That's not the point at all. Because I'll speak from my own personal experience. When I cheated, and I did a fair amount of it, I never felt good about myself. And I always felt so bad for the person I was cheating on. And it just wasn't good. But I did not know that I was able to announce myself as being open or poly or whatever you want to call it. I didn't know that I could. Now I know that I must announce it, that I can only be open that way, that there's no space or room or desire in my life to be cheating. So I go at it and it's much healthier and I feel much better about it. And the reception I've had has been incredible. So awesome. Don't cheat, please.
One of the other ways that you can cheat in consensual non-monogamy is not keeping to agreements or lying about it. For example, one that has come up and that I've heard people talk about is not respecting the protection of sexual health based on your agreements. So maybe you have an agreement for something, like you ask your partners what their sexual history is, not sexual history, but their testing history. And, you don't ask them. And then that's something that you have as an agreement. And that's one of our agreements, I'd say.
That's a good deal. Yeah. And on that note, since we are doing our public service announcements, please get yourself tested regularly. Ask your partners to be tested regularly. And if ever anything should come up, which it could, it's like a cold in many ways, it does get passed around, immediately go into shutdown, let your metamors know, let your poly know that something's amiss, and we will fix it, and then we'll be right back with you. So if ever it should happen, no moral judgment, no kind of shaming or anything like that. It is part of what happens in the community. It's just part of what happens in Homo sapiens, and we will go at it in a very mature and loving way.
Exactly. Thank you for that PSA, because one of the questions was, How frequently should I get tested if I'm in a polyamorous, open, or swinging relationship and have multiple partners?
Right.
And what happens when someone gets an STI?
Right.
So you answered that part, but how often? I think it depends on you.
Right.
I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. So if you only have one partner and you're in a close relationship, then you don't have to keep testing, retesting. But these tests are essentially a snapshot at that moment. Right?
Yes.
So it's telling you how you were at that moment. And then as soon as one variable has been introduced, that snapshot is no longer valid. Now it's a whole new consideration. So we like to get tested
at least every 3 months.
At least. Anytime we have a new partner.
And any extenuating circumstances that come up.
For sure. And anytime I just go to the doctor's office, I'm like, throw it in, let's do it.
Which is a good point. So you can get tested in various ways, depending on where you are in the world. Like in Canada, you can get it done through your doctor.
Yeah, or
you can get it done anonymously at a free clinic. There's also, I know in the US, there's free clinics. Yeah. I understand you can also, I'm not sure if you can do that here, maybe. You can get kits that you can buy and send in. I know that's for sure in the US because I have clients that do that.
It's about $1.50.
$1.50?
About $150.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But the reason I think we like to do it through our family doctor is like you say, like when we go in to get something checked, like I was having some trouble with my hearing. They're like, do you want to get tested? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Give me the whole thing. Yeah. And then it's just easy. And then they have all your records. Right. And it's just, I don't know. I find it much more easy.
Yeah. But you know what else I like about it? It normalizes it.
Yes.
It's like every time we come in, it's like, oh, he's going to get his testing again. It's like, okay, so he's a big slut, but, and that's true. But the thing is, it's the normalization of it, that it's just the way we are. And so what of it?
Yeah. I like that our doctor just asks us, but she's on maternity right now. So I have a new one. So I had to ask this time. And I was like, I don't know if you saw in our notes, but I have multiple partners and partners of different genders and blah, blah, blah. And so I'd like to get all the tests. Speaking of which, all the tests has a different definition in different places.
Yeah, right.
So I know in Canada, and when I go to my doctor's office, I have to ask for a throat swab. It's not in the regular list of things. And the reason we started getting them and asking for them is because we had a situation come up where partners of ours informed us that they contracted throat gonorrhea from someone else. So
yeah, but they told us because they knew that they could trust us, and they believed in our ability to receive that information without judgment. And we all went and got tested and found out, luckily, that we were A-okay, but that we were willing and able to do the right thing, and that was to get tested and be informed and share that information.
Yeah, and we actually saw those people recently, and they apologized for that. I was like, "Why are you apologizing? That's like the way it is supposed to be." I would rather know.
Oh God, yeah, for sure.
But the thing about
it's a responsible thing to do in the community.
Yeah, and I wanted to share some facts just because people have different. There's different detection periods, so I wrote them down. So I'm gonna look at the notes. So gonorrhea, 2 to 30 days. After exposure, chlamydia 1 to 3 weeks after exposure.
So wait a second. Chlamydia 1 to 3 weeks after exposure. So you could have it and not see anything for 1 to 3 weeks?
Yeah. So you could get tested. You could be exposed. Like we could have sex today. I could be exposed if you have chlamydia, but I won't show up on a test of mine for 1 to 3 weeks. It's because people are like, oh, I went to a sex party, and they go get tested the next day, which is really not like, usually it's at least for all these things, it's at least 1 week, if not longer.
So it could be a false negative.
Yeah. So other than gonorrhea, that's the most common, 2 to 30 days. But chlamydia is 1 to 3 weeks after exposure. Syphilis is 10 days to 3 months. Herpes, 2 weeks to 3 months. Hep B, 3 weeks to 2 months. And Hep C anytime up to 6 months after exposure. HIV 4 weeks to 3 months. So there's
which is going back to the idea of it being a snapshot, right? So if you took it the day after the party and you'd be like, wow, like I'm cool, I'm like everything is fine, but then we don't really see it, you'd have to come back for a more accurate snapshot a little bit later on.
Exactly. Sorry, I'm looking at your phone because there's an anonymous question. So that got sent.
Okay, cool.
So let's finish taking the ones that are in there. So that's testing.
So anyway, yeah, going back. So I was doing it this way. I was walking in and asking them to give me an STD panel, do whatever it was on that test. And yeah, they would take blood and urine. but they were not. I wasn't at that time falling into a category where they thought it was really pertinent to give me HIV testing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I guess, well, I spoke to one healthcare provider, and they said that the incidence of it had gone down, and that the categories that I checked off, because I was the way I was not necessarily needing to screen it. So I thought, well, why don't we do it anyway? And why don't we do it periodically just in case? So it's always good to, I think it's better to get over tested than to get under tested. But in that, yes, they were not doing rectal swabs and they weren't doing throat swabs. So those things, depending on your lifestyle and what you're doing, you might want to consider.
Okay. Awesome.
This is fun, but not as sexy as I thought it was going to be. Do you have any sexy questions here?
Well, we did have the one about going to a sex club. That was kind of sexy. What do I do if I don't like my partner's partner? My metamor. So we should probably, so a metamor is your partner's partner.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that comes up. I think people have that situation. So we're together and perhaps you meet someone and I don't like them for some reason.
Okay.
So what do I do?
Well, first of all, if I don't like your metamor, too bad for me. I'm not the one dating your metamor. Unless there's big red flags that are going on. I'm like, wait a second, this person is abusive, or this person is, this, that, and the other thing.
They feel like it's not safe.
Right. Then I think I would come to you and say, I'm glad that you're keen on this person. It's great that you met them, but I have some concerns. Maybe we could talk about them. I feel as though, from what I've seen so far, X, Y, and Z. But if I just don't like the way that they use their fork or, the way they wear their hair, too bad for me. It's not my choosing, right? It's who you want to be with.
That's true. But there may be some flags to watch for.
Yeah.
And I mean, your own flags as well is like, what makes me not like that person? Is it really there's something about them, or is it bringing up something within me that I'm jealous of or something like that?
I thought you were going to say with the first scenario where I was saying that it was my metamor, your person that you're seeing, and were you purposely wanting to find somebody that I wouldn't like in order to like make me jealous or make me mad or whatever?
Oh, no, that's not what I was suggesting.
I'm far too devious. It could be fun.
Yeah. So I think in this case, if you feel like you don't like your partner's partner for some reason, you're sensing that about yourself, is to first check yourself at the door. Like, what is it you don't like about that person? Do you feel that your partner is in any risk or not, or unsafe, or maybe they're engaging in unsafe activities? Because sometimes that happens. Yeah. Because our partners sometimes bring our other partners. We often will do different things with them, right? Because they're different. You may be experiencing things. Maybe you're trying out new things with them, etc. You know what I mean?
But it's interesting you speak about the differences, because I would imagine that you and I, we like each other because we had a lot in common in some ways, right? We have some things that draw us to each other. We seem rather compatible. So for you to go out and find another person, it might be that you want somebody who's completely different, but I think in a lot of cases, the person, the metamor, is going to be not too unlike that person to begin with. In other words, if I like things to be neat and orderly and more towards, the lighter spectrum, it's unlikely, I would imagine, that I'm going to veer too far from that. So would you really have big cause to not like your metamor? Because when you look at them, they're probably not too dissimilar from who you are.
That is sometimes the case.
Not always.
Okay.
I don't like your new person. They're too tall. No, I like tall. I'm almost 7 feet myself. So. Anyway.
Okay.
All right.
So we have another question that came up. It got sent to us during the cast. Okay. So it's about when your partner is going away with someone. In this case, it's with an ex, but it could be anyone. So maybe you are having an overnight, or there's going to be a vacation with your ex or that. What kinds of conversations do you have in advance? What kinds of things can you talk about? How can you plan for this? That sort of thing.
Great question. Yeah. Well, you had some experience with this, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, fairly early on in our relationship, I met somebody. You and I were kind of, well, we were already going together.
Yeah, we were well into our relationship, at least a year in, or if not longer.
No, but I meant to say that it was an open relationship. We were fairly committed in that relationship, right?
Are we not? Are we not now?
Yeah, no. But that we were already then. Anyway, the point is, I met somebody, and then we decided we'd go on a little trip together.
Yeah, so it was 2020, and we got together in 2018. So it was 2 years into our relationship.
Okay.
So there you go. So it was more than new in our relationship. So basically, you wanted to travel with this person. So you were going to be gone for about a week, and on your own, and
not on my own, with them,
but without me. And it was the first time we were going to be traveling with a partner. So this was a new thing because it's not something we had an agreement on before that. In fact, we probably, I don't think we had a rule about it, but we certainly weren't doing that on the regular. It was the first time it came up for us. So we had to talk about it. So that's the thing. So in any of these cases, I think whether it's an ex-partner or a new partner or whatever it is, if you are going to be doing something new in your relationship, like having an overnight or that sort of thing, then I think it's a good time to have a conversation about what you expect and what might happen, and how are there agreements you'd like to have in place in order to feel okay or at least neutral about the situation, right?
So how was it for you back then? Like, what was it like?
I mean, part of me was like, I want to test myself and see how I do in this circumstance. You know what I mean? And because it wasn't comfortable, I was like, wow, I'm like, you're going to be going on a vacation with this person. That means like multiple nights sleeping together. This person was younger than me, vibrant, lively, you know what I mean? There was definitely some opportunities to be jealous about that in that situation. So.
But what were some of the things that made it a little bit more viable? What helped? What didn't help? What would you have changed?
Well, we had a conversation about it, right? And part of it was, I'm not sure, you understood what my fears were, but I think you probably took it upon yourself to check in with me quite regularly on the trip.
So the check-ins were helpful?
Yeah, at least once a day. You would do a little FaceTime and say hello and let me know how you were doing or what you were up to. Not too much information, because I think part of me wanted to know a little bit, but not a lot. But I also, wanted to respect your privacy in that situation as well. But I love that you checked in with me and, asked me how I was doing, what was going on with me. I felt important. I felt special, even though we weren't in the same place.
Yeah.
I think it probably also helped that I had done my own thing just the week prior to you going away. So having my own things that were important to me and keeping me busy and that sort of thing. So those are also important, because it's not totally your partner's responsibility to reassure you. You can ask for what reassurances you need. But I would just talk about, what things you want in place. Like we talked about sexual health. So are there certain agreements you want to have about that? Like what's okay, that sort of thing. So those are the kinds of things, we talk about. Like you can't change someone's feelings for someone. If they're going to, want to, make more into that relationship than they would have prior to you going, there's nothing you can do to stop that. All you can do is set up the conditions to support your relationship as it is right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Anything to add to that? What you would do?
No, but I think, again, it speaks to our strength of communication, that we're able to talk about these things. We didn't know yet what it was going to be like. It was the first time we had such a scenario, but we were successful because we did talk about it. We spoke about our desires, our fantasies, our concerns, our fears, all of those things, but we spoke about it. So that was really awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything you would have done differently, or?
I would have found a way to bring you with us. That might have been fun. What would I have done differently? I don't know. I think my level of awareness, I like to think my level of awareness and consideration is greater now. So I think I would have done even a better job of checking in with you and really find out where you're at and let you know where I was at and how much I love you. And, I hope I did that.
You did.
Okay, cool.
Would it be any different, like in the circumstance of the person who's asking, like if it was an ex?
That's a good question. It's funny because I guess I'm not that sentimental or that romantic in the past, but somebody had said something to that the other day, and they said, "Why would I ever go back with my ex? I already know why we didn't work out."
That's true.
Right. So
That's
maybe
true.
an ex is in some ways less threatening, but it depends. I guess if the person's still pining for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, I'd feel more secure with an ex than with the future love. To me, the future love is the one that has more prospect. There's more unknown. So it's more fantastic than the one I already know. It's kind of like, eh. Although, if you're my ex, I'd still feel happy to know you and want to be with you. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it would make a difference for you if it's their
No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I think the only thing that you'd want to have a discussion with beforehand is, say, for example, you and your ex were fluid bonded when you were together, right? So you weren't using fluid bonding, meaning that you're not using any sort of barriers for protection, so condoms and stuff like that. So if that's your arrangement in your new relationship, and that's something you'd be concerned about, that'd be something to discuss beforehand, I think. So,
but would there be an emotional difference between whether it's the new perfect stranger or the formerly known, perhaps potentially more secure ex?
I don't know. I don't have any exes that I would feel potentially more secure with.
Well, what about me?
They're exes for a reason. All my exes live in Texas. Actually, that's not true.
No, you got exes scattered all over the place. What about me as your future ex?
Why are you casting us as exes in the future?
Well, we could even just role play. It could be fun.
Oh, that's role play that we've broken up and we're going to get together.
Yeah. We used to share a plant together. Now, we're broken up. We have shared custody of the plant. It'd be fun.
You'd be a troublemaking ex.
You know it.
Well, some people have a hard time resisting their ex. It is a thing, right? It's like you had to break up with them for a certain reason. But now, you're going to see them again. And, that could be a thing. I get that. I get that situation, right?
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, if it was a good relationship, we might still have an attraction towards each other, even though for whatever reason we broke up. Yeah, it doesn't, that doesn't necessarily negate that.
Yeah. So I think the bottom line is to come up with some agreements that you have. If you have particular personal boundaries that you wish respected, then to hold to those and make sure you communicate those in advance. Because then it's up.
Yeah, but that's sort of true of everybody.
Oh, it's true of everybody. Yeah.
So communicate
then
your boundaries.
It's up to that person to respect those boundaries or not. And then if they don't, then that's a you have a decision. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. So, okay. So, one last question. Unless somebody has one in the group. Do I have to have compersion in a non-monogamous relationship, consensual non-monogamous?
Okay, so compersion is when we feel pleasure from our partner's pleasure.
Yes, the joy with their joy. Yeah. So our partner feels joy and we feel joy. Do we have to have compersion? I mean, it's a great ideal to have. It'd be great to feel compersion all the time. Yeah. But I think if people have that expectation that they have to have this in order to be successful in polyamory, it can be intimidating, I guess is the right word.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, just the have to is the part that gets me, right? You don't have to do it because that way you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you feel as though you're falling short of it. So no, you don't have to have it. I think the only thing you have to have is respect and consent, and even respect, depends on the scenario. Maybe you don't have to have any respect, but you have to have consent. But no, you don't have to have compersion, but it's wonderful if it does come along. It's almost like that.
To work towards it.
I think it's like that, that holiday Christmas, right? Where some people, they want a Christmas gift and they get it. That's great. But then if they get that extra little gift, it's like that added bonus. So having compersion is kind of like that. Like you don't necessarily have to have it, but if you do get it, great.
Yeah. I think you can
work on it?
Yeah, you can work on it.
How do you do that?
Well, you can practice having joy in other circumstances or feeling joy for others in other ways that are a little more neutral or easier, like, a mom taking care of their kid or your partner learning to play the guitar or
but compersion when we talk about compersion, we're talking
I know.
specifically about our partner having sexual or romantic or emotional interest in somebody else and are getting pleasure out of the fact that our partner's invested in somebody else in that exchange, right?
Well, maybe you can get the pleasure in your partner's pleasure rather than the specific experience.
Yeah, for
They're
sure.
having
Exactly.
joy, so you feel
Yes,
joy.
exactly.
Yeah. So I think you can work towards it, and you could also be okay with resting at neutral. You could also be neutral. Like, you're not filled with jealousy, but you're neutral. Like, I'm okay with this. Like you asked me the other day, are you okay that I have a date tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm okay. Might I be a little jealous when you're out? For sure. Yeah. Might I be wondering how awesome this person is? Maybe.
And my asking you if you're okay if I have a date with it, I'm not asking for permission, and you're not asking me for permission.
No.
We're doing it out of love, out of consideration, out of a check-in, right? Want to find out, what's going on. But also because of our style of relationship where we are each other's sometimes nesting partners, primaries, we do it out of consideration for scheduling as well, right?
Yeah.
Do we have anything on, or did you plan something? You want to do something? No, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's part of what we value in our relationship is consideration. It's not about permission at all. It's about, I think we try to give as much notice as possible. As soon as we find out that we might have a date, we just check in with the other person, say, do we have something going on that day that I forgot about? How would you feel? It's not it's not a permission thing. It's a consideration. And I think that's part of our agreements, to give as much notice as possible. Yeah.
And, we love spectrums, right? When we put our things on, like the G-cert, whatever, where do we fit on this scale? Are we hypersexual or asexual, whatever it is? But the idea of compersion might be looked at as the far end of one scale. And on the other end of that might be jealousy, right? Some people might feel, and then you said being neutral, being tolerant, being in the middle. But if I'm feeling jealous, it's not to say that I'll always feel jealous, that there are things that we can do to address those feelings of jealousy. I think we can address feelings of jealousy much more than we can on learning to be compassionate or compersionate.
Compersionate. Is that a word?
It is now.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times I feel I love when I feel compersion, but it's not always.
But when you feel jealous, there are things we can do. We've done modules on that, right? Things that we can actively do to shift that needle of jealousy.
For sure. We did a whole training on it maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago on jealousy, and there was actually a worksheet to go with it. So if you missed that and you're interested, let us know and we'll tag you in that video, or it's in the guides. Yeah. So that was a lot of questions, a lot of talking. I think we're at about an hour. Yeah. I know I see someone has said something. If you're watching the replay and you have a question, you can drop it in the chat here for the replay, or you can send one of us a message and we'll follow up with you. You can always book a call with us. In fact, Andre, you opened up specifically a few extra times.
They're sealing up, so
okay. So yes, so if you want one of those spots, maybe there's one left, maybe then
and you might
reach
have
out.
Some time?
Yes, I definitely have time to chat, and we love to chat with you because this is what we do. We love helping people navigate their non-monogamous relationships. So that was fun.
It was indeed.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining us live or in the replay. And we will see you next Monday at our regular bat time and our regular bat station, 11 a.m. Eastern on Mondays.
Yay.
And maybe we'll try opening up this time another time in the future and give you a little more notice this time. We kind of were last minute-y. #pride.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your Monday. Bye. And we'll chat with you in the group.